Rakugo, by telling us funny stories of poor, stupid, and foolish people, teaches us how to be tolerant and generous to others, how we can laugh and forgive each other's mistakes. 皆さんこんにちは and welcome to Let's Ask Shogo. Japan actually has quite a rich and unique culture of comedy, and there are still many young people who are studying to become comedians. The root of all different kinds of comedy in Japan is Rakugo, the Japanese traditional comic storytelling. I have to be very honest with you that even though I am Japanese, I've only seen Rakugo just a few times in my life, and I've never really known anything about it. However, in order to make this video, I did quite a lot of studying, and I am very glad I did because I realized studying and learning about Rakugo is unbelievably beneficial for all Japanese learners. By the time you finish watching this video, you will understand all the basic knowledge you need to know about Rakugo. And I'm sure you'll want to start enjoying Rakugo right away. So today, I will talk about what Rakugo is by explaining its characteristics and history. In the last part of this video, I will explain the 5 amazing benefits of Rakugo for Japanese learners, which is surely the most important part of the whole story. And even if you get confused somewhere during the middle, that's okay. I will wrap everything up again at the end of the video in today's conclusion. それでは本日も参りましょう。First, let's start by talking about what Rakugo is in the first place. If I were to explain Rakugo in one sentence, it would be a Japanese traditional comic storytelling with 250 years of history performed by a single person wearing a kimono and only using a fan and handkerchief as tools. If you take a look at this picture, you can understand that the stage is very simple, and it is all up to the storyteller's skills to paint the image to the audience for them to laugh. Because the storytellers are only allowed to use 2 items, a fan and a handkerchief, they are used to represent literally everything from a tobacco pipe, chopsticks, sake cup, fishing pole, book, wallet, and even food. Rakugo is mainly performed at stages called yose, where you can enjoy a show for about 4 hours, with not just Rakugo but other stage arts like manzai, acrobatics, magic, and different forms of storytelling. However, again, because Rakugo is super simple, it can be performed anywhere, as long as you have space for one person to sit and talk. There are 2 kinds of stories they tell, the classic Rakugo and the new Rakugo. The classic Rakugo are the 300 stories that have existed since the time Rakugo started about 250 years ago. And the new Rakugo are the stories that are being created by professional Rakugo storytellers today. The stories of the classic Rakugo are mainly about the commoners who lived in the Edo period, the last samurai era that lasted for about 265 years. On the other hand, the people who appear in the new Rakugo can be businessmen, students, and families that we can see anywhere in Japan today. What's amazing is that the classic Rakugo are still the stories that are mainly practiced by these storytellers and enjoyed by the audience today. Yes, it means that all Rakugo storytellers have been performing the same 300 stories until today. But they are still funny and entertaining, even though our society has completely changed since the time these stories were created. You can understand how complete and universal the content and themes of the stories are, and how they have been accepted over a long period of time. If you can imagine classical music or theater plays written by Shakespeare, for example, it might be easier to understand. However, the road to becoming a professional Rakugo storyteller called Rakugoka is not funny or comical at all. Rakugoka has 4 different ranks, but to get to the top rank that is considered a fully trained Rakugoka takes 15 years on average. There are still many young people who are in training and following this harsh and long path today. These are the 5 fundamental steps to become a Rakugoka. 1. Asking a master to accept you as his apprentice. 2. Zenza minarai. 3. Zenza. 4. 2つ目. 5. Shinchi. 1. Asking a master to accept you as his apprentice. In most cases, you must bring your parents to greet the master because a trainee will not be paid anything during their training period, and they would absolutely need the support of their parents. This means that if you don't have a strong passion to persuade your parents in the first place, you cannot even start training. 2. Zenza minarai. You will first start from doing the daily chores for master and senior apprentices, like cleaning the house and folding their kimono. You are still not even allowed to enter the backstage rooms of the Yosei stages, because you will get in the way. 3. Zenza. You are finally allowed to enter the backstage rooms, and you will gradually have occasions to perform Rakugo. However, your main job is still to work as an assistant for your master and senior apprentices during the stages. 4. 2つ目. You are finally allowed to hold your own Rakugo shows, and you will have a wider range of activities. You will now have junior apprentices of your master do chores and assistant work for you. 5. Shinchi, the last and highest rank of Rakugoka. You will now be called a master and are allowed to have your own apprentices. I hope you have now understood the outline of Rakugo, but I'm pretty sure it's very difficult to have a clear image of it unless you actually know some of the stories. So I've chosen 3 of my favorite stories of Rakugo that are rather easy to understand, even if you don't know too much about what life in the Edo period was like. I will also change the stories a little bit to make them easier to understand. 1. Manju kowai. 2. Neko no sara. 3. Ichigankoku. So, there were 3 friends talking with each other at night about what they are most afraid of. The first man said, "Yeah, I am definitely scared of snakes. They are the most creepiest thing in this world." And then the second man said, "I would definitely say that I'm most afraid of ghosts. Aren't they really creepy? Or I'm totally scared of them." And then the third man was not saying anything. So the other 2 were like, "What about you? What are you scared of? Come on, say something." And then the third man quietly started to say, "You know, guys, I'm actually afraid of cakes." And then the other 2 were like, wait, what did you just say? You're afraid of cakes? My friend, cake is a food. It's a sweet. You eat it. How can you be afraid of cakes? What does that even mean? Guys, I'm really not joking. I'm seriously afraid of cakes. Yes, I'm sorry, but I'm being very honest right now. I'm afraid of cakes, and that's the end of the story. That must be some kind of joke. That is so funny. I've never heard of anyone who are afraid of cakes. And then later that night, the 2 men who heard about this man who were afraid of cakes, the 2 came together and were talking. You know, our third friend then, he said he was afraid of cakes. Wasn't that so funny? You know, I have a really funny plan for a fun thing that we can do, a small prank we can play on him. How about we go outside, get some cakes, and put some cakes around his pillow, and then suddenly wake him up. I think that'll be a really fun thing to do, don't you think? That is an awesome plan. Let's do that right now. I'll go get the cakes. You see if he's still asleep or not, okay? And then the two men, they go and get the cakes, find the third friend asleep, so they actually lay down the cakes around his pillow, and they decide, okay? Alright, so the cakes are ready. Are you ready, man? Yes, let's do this, come on. Hey, there's cakes around your pillows! And then the third man wakes up suddenly and he sees all the cakes around his pillow and he screams, oh my gosh, there's so many cakes around me! And he starts eating all the cakes around him and he starts eating them one by one, smashing them into his mouth, yes. And at first, the two friends were laughing, watching him screaming and eating the cakes, but eventually they started to realize that they were the ones who were actually being tricked. Wait. He is eating all the cakes. Oh my gosh, oh no, we are the ones that were tricked. Come on, let's get inside there. The two runs into that room, slams open the door and says, you tricked us. You are not afraid of cakes. You just wanted us to buy cakes for you so you can eat them. Okay, so this time, finally, be honest. What are you really scared about? And then the third friend says, finishing eating his last cake, he says, I think I'm afraid of coffee now. There was this one antique dealer who went to the market, couldn't find anything good to buy for him to sell, yes. So he walks around, he couldn't find, oh man, I couldn't find a good antique today. Oh well, and he finds a nice tea house. So he sits down and orders some tea, yes. And sitting down enjoying his tea, he finds that that tea house is actually owning a cat. Taking a look at that cat, she is actually eating something from a plate. But that plate is actually something super expensive. And then the antique dealer sees the plate and he goes, oh my gosh, the tea house owner here must be really stupid. He doesn't know that he's using such an expensive plate for his cat. That plate can be sold about $3,000, maybe even $30,000. Alright, so, wait, but I shouldn't rush. I shouldn't just suddenly ask the owner to give me the plate. That'd be a little bit too suspicious. How about I ask him that I want the cat? And how about I ask him that I want the plate together with the cat? That might be a natural way to ask him. All right, let's do this. Excuse me, sir. Oh, yes, sir. Well, how can I help you? Your beautiful cat you have here, she is just wonderful. Just very beautiful, just simply very beautiful. I was wondering, would it be able if I could possibly ask if I can have your cat? Well, that's a very sudden offer. Well, I do care her very much. I can't just suddenly give my cat to you. I understand. Of course. Your cat is very precious to you. Okay, how about I ask you, of course, I won't ask you to give her to me for free. How about I say, how about I give you about, it's just about $30,000. What do you think? Sir, are you sure, sir? $3,000 for my cat. Are you sure, sir? Yes, of course. Look at her. She is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Yes. Thank you very much for that. Though I do have one thing I need to tell you. I would love to ask to have the plate together with the cat. The plate, the plate that she's eating. Cats they can't eat from the same plate. It might be a little bit uncomfortable for them, right? I think they should take the plate with me along, shouldn't I? Yes, I should. Yeah, I should. No, sir. I can't let you take the plate. No. I mean, the cat wants to probably use the plate that she's been using for a long time, right? You should give me the plate too. No, I can't give you the plate. The plate is something very expensive. It's probably about $30,000 or even more expensive. Wait, huh? Wait. Are you trying to tell me that you knew this plate is that expensive? Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's a very expensive plate imported from China, actually. Okay, well, if you knew about that, why are you letting your cat eat from a plate so expensive? Well, sir, when I let my cat eat from this plate, sometimes my cat can be sold for $3,000. There was a bad merchant. He was actually a slave dealer going around to different places buying slaves and selling them. One day, he hears about a rumor of a one-eyed child that appears in this certain area. He hears about the rumors. Hearing this rumor, he thinks, this might be awesome. I could just go and kidnap one of those one-eyed children, take one of those kids and sell them in the circus. I'll make a lot of money. All right, this is a great plan. Let's go there. So he moves into the area where he hears the rumor that the one-eyed kid appears. He goes into the area. He finds that one-eyed child. Yes, he goes, this must be, I'm gonna catch him. And he brings him into this bag and he catches him. All right, I got him. And he tries to get away, but he gets captured. There's a big bag goes over him. He's like, what's happening to me? What's happening to me? And the next moment, he has his arms tied up, gets rolled on the ground. There's tons of adults around him, surrounding him. He wakes up. Oh my gosh, what happened? And he looks around him. Then all the adults around him have only one eye. And looking down at this bad merchant, they say, look at this guy. He has 2 eyes. He's gonna be really expensive if we sell him off at the circus. Although there are many different kinds of stories, from comedy to deep emotions and love, realistic to fantasy like yokai and sake, food, there is one common teaching that the Rakugo stories have. It is accepting people's flaws. The main theme of Rakugo is about silly or foolish people making mistakes or causing small crimes. But they make it into a comical story so people can laugh, forgive, and learn from them. Humans are weak, irrational, and make mistakes. But that's who we are. No one is perfect. So let's accept each other's flaws and forgive each other for our mistakes. This is the ultimate message of Rakugo. Another beautiful characteristic of Rakugo is that there are no stories of killing or bullying. This is because no matter what kind of situation it is, listening to someone getting killed or bullied should not be considered as comedy for anyone to laugh at. And it's a crime that cannot be accepted. The Edo period was a miraculous era with no wars for more than 250 years. Even though there was a large population of people living together in small areas. It is believed that Rakugo played an important role in realizing this peaceful period by teaching people how to get along, accept others' mistakes, and not to commit the crimes the characters do in the stories. Even today, Rakugo is an enjoyable way to keep you tolerant and understanding towards others. Then, before we move on to today's most important message, let me briefly introduce to you the history of Rakugo so that you can deepen your understanding even more. I have broken down the history into 4 points. 1. The ancestor of Rakugoka, Hideyoshi's advisor. 2. The origin of classic Rakugo, the comical stories to spread Buddhism teachings. 3. Becomes popular among commoners. 4. The survival crisis and Rakugo today. 1. The ancestor of Rakugoka, Hideyoshi's advisor. The first Rakugoka is said to be Sorori Shinzaemon, a man that served Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the second samurai of the 3 heroes in the Sengoku era. Sorori was not just a talented craftsman making katana sheaths, but he was also a member of the Lord Hideyoshi's official group of advisors, which means he had brilliant communication skills too. There is a very famous episode of Sorori and Hideyoshi, where you can understand how clever Sorori was. Hideyoshi became sick, and he was getting weaker and weaker by the day. Then one day, his precious pine tree bonsai somehow withered away, and Hideyoshi got even more discouraged. Even my treasure, the pine tree bonsai, has died. I guess it's the end of myself too. Sorori hears about the situation and comes to read a poem to Hideyoshi. Lord Hideyoshi's precious pine tree has withered to give its longevity to its master. In Japan, pine trees are symbols of longevity because they are evergreen trees. Sorori said that the pine tree has died instead of Hideyoshi to give him the long years of life to him. Hideyoshi was deeply moved by this idea, and he actually quickly recovered from his disease. Sarori's communication skills to change a sad situation into a happy one is exactly what a Rakugoka needs even today. 2. The origins of classic Rakugo, the comical stories to spread the teachings of Buddhism. Although many Japanese too see Rakugo as a comedy culture, its roots are actually from comical stories that were written to spread the teachings of Buddhism during the Edo period. It was very difficult to teach commoners about Buddhism by just making them sit down and take classes. So that's why these stories were created to make them easier to listen to. This may explain why the stories of Rakugo are so complete and universal, because its roots are from a religion that has thousands of years of history. 3. Becomes popular among commoners. Rakugo eventually becomes a popular entertainment among the commoners during the Edo period, along with stage arts like kabuki and sumo. Especially during the Edo period, the people were living stressful lives of always being afraid of natural disasters, famines, and fires. Rakugo helped them to enjoy a moment of peace. 4. The survival crisis and Rakugo today. After the Edo period ended and wars began in the Meiji period, Rakugo faced crises of survival due to the government restricting any laughing or entertainment. By the time World War II ended, most of the stage houses where Rakugo was performed were burnt down, and there were very few Rakugoka. However, thanks to the hard work of the legendary Rakugoka and the support of their fans, today there are many Yosei stages and more than 800 Rakugoka who are inheriting the culture. Lastly, let's finally wrap up the 5 reasons why I highly recommend learners of Japanese to know about Rakugo. By the way, I don't mean that you should become a Rakugoka, but just become one of their audiences to enjoy the culture. 1. You can learn about Japanese values. 2. You can learn about the culture of the Edo period. 3. You can improve your communication skills. 4. You can be more tolerant, generous to others. 5. Easy and cheap to watch. 1. You can learn about Japanese values. As I've been explaining through this video, the stories of Rakugo are based on the teachings of Buddhism and have been loved and protected for more than 250 years of Japanese history. Rakugo contains the essence of Japanese values. Just like you can learn about the culture of that country or region by enjoying its classical theaters, music, and arts, Rakugo is a fun way to learn about Japan. Maybe you'll find some of the stories to have strange plots or unagreeable endings. However, in any way, the more you learn about Rakugo, you can surely deepen your understanding towards what moves the hearts of Japanese and makes them laugh. 2. You can learn about the culture of the Edo period. Not only will you learn about the values of Japan, but you will also be able to learn about the various cultures during the Edo period. By various cultures, I mean everything from these seasonal traditions, festivals, architecture, shrines, temples, yukaku, professions, craftwork, currency, food, sake, yokai, ghosts, and much more. Because the 265 years of the Edo period had a very big impact on Japanese society, many of these cultures still exist today, and they often show up in anime and manga too. Of course, you can study in class or from a book about these things, but wouldn't you think it would be even better to laugh and enjoy comical stories as you learn about them? 3. You can improve your communication skills. Every country has its own sense of comedy and humor. And surely the best way to learn about what Japanese people find funny or laughable is Rakugo. Trying to say something in Japanese to make a Japanese person laugh might be difficult, but it will help you with your daily communication with them and help you understand the comical stories of other cultures, like movies and dramas too. 4. You can be more tolerant, generous to others. This is the biggest reason why I recommend Rakugo. Not only to Japanese learners, but to anyone in the world. Even in Japan today, if someone makes a small mistake, he or she might be attacked and slandered on the internet. You see and hear stupid gossip news about celebrities cheating, or someone accidentally saying something too radical on Twitter. And there are tons of people criticizing and attacking them, and driving them into the point that they cannot continue to live in this society anymore. People probably want to feel like heroes by slandering other people that they have no real business with. And it's making the Japanese society even more cramped than ever, because it's really difficult to say your own opinions or challenge new things. Because one small mistake you make might label you as a person that's done for. As I've explained earlier, there are crimes like killing and bullying that cannot be tolerated whatsoever. However, other than that, anyone would make a mistake, and sometimes do and say things that we regret. Do you want to live in a world where people will constantly attack and criticize you for every small mistake you make in your life? No. I would want to live in a world where we can forgive each other and slander but try to have proper communication with each other. Rakugo, by telling us funny stories of poor, stupid, and foolish people, teaches us how to be tolerant and generous to others, how we can laugh and forgive each other's mistakes. 5. Easy and cheap to watch. Lastly is about how accessible Rakugo is. You can first of all enjoy authentic Rakugo, done by professional Rakugoka right here on YouTube. They have a very nice YouTube channel where they have videos of both the classical and new stories. Also, if you ever have a chance to come to Japan to actually enjoy Rakugo live, it only costs about 2,000 to 3,000 yen for the 4-hour full show. And there are no dress codes, and it's very easygoing. Again, this is because Rakugo was originally a culture popular among the commoners in the past. As a no theater trainee, I really recommend other stage arts like Kabuki, Nihonbuyo, and Bunraku too. But in terms of accessibility, I believe that Rakugo is the easiest to enjoy. Then lastly, today's conclusion. Rakugo is a Japanese traditional comic storytelling with 250 years of history, performed by a single person wearing a kimono and only using a fan and a handkerchief as tools. They are mainly performed at stages called yose, but it can be performed anywhere as long as you have space for one person to sit and talk. There are two kinds of stories in Rakugo, the classic Rakugo and the new Rakugo. The classic Rakugo are the 300 stories that have existed since the time Rakugo started about 250 years ago. And the new Rakugo are the stories being created by professional Rakugo storytellers today. What's amazing is that the classic Rakugo are the stories that are still mainly practiced by the storytellers and enjoyed by the audience today. However, the road to becoming a professional Rakugoka is not funny or comical at all. It takes about 15 years on average. Accepting people's flaws is the one common teaching that the Rakugo stories have. Through the comical stories, the Japanese people since the Edo period have learned to forgive others and learn from the characters' mistakes. It is believed that Rakugo played an important role in realizing the 265 years of peace during the Edo period. The 5 reasons why I recommend enjoying Rakugo to Japanese learners are: 1. you can learn about Japanese values. 2, you can learn about the culture of the Edo period. 3, you can improve your communication skills. 4, you can be more tolerant, generous to others. 5, easy and cheap to watch. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you thought, Shogo, you just made me add a new thing to the list of things I want to do in Japan, please hit the like button to let me know. And my goal is to achieve 1 million subscribers by January 2023, so your help is what I need. In this channel, you can take a closer look at Japanese traditional culture, tips on traveling to Kyoto, and social problems in Japan. So learners and lovers of Japanese language and culture, be sure to subscribe to enjoy more content. Thanks again, and I'll see you in my next video. どうもありがとうございました。